Did you know that approximately 15% of the Earth's land is completely unexplored? Did you know that approximately 80% of the Earth's ocean is unexplored as well? Interesting, isn't it? We've spent hundreds of years following our curiosity as a species and have still explored so little of the planet on which we live. There's still so much that's unknown about our planet, and it really makes you think, doesn't it? What's still out there? What lay within those unexplored areas? These very questions are the genesis of an entire genre of conspiracy theories we have all heard about in one form or another. Cryptids. From ancient mythology to urban legends, there are countless stories about creatures we cannot properly explain and, in some cases, have no concrete evidence to confirm their existence. Because I enjoy them so much, I wanted to do a similar series to the Creepypasta Iceberg, this time breaking down each level of the Cryptid Iceberg as created by Jimbo Seth on icebergcharts.com. Please be advised that some of these cryptids I will not cover because I have specifically noted that the people of that particular culture do not wish for these creatures to be spoken about, and I do wish to respect that. With that being said, let's begin with level 1. Because it is so prevalent in this list, I'm going to start by knocking out arguably the most popular cryptid and its many forms, Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is an ape-like cryptid generally known to live in the forests of North America. It is described as being bipedal, extremely tall, and excessively hairy with either a humanoid or ape-like face. It's also described as having a skunk-like odor that can be detected from a distance and lingers after the creature has left the area. Gross. The earliest reports of Bigfoot allegedly came from the Yakutsk tribe, excuse my pronunciation, of Native Americans and date back between 500 to over 1,000 years with a petroglyph called Hairy Man that depicts it. The most famous sighting of Bigfoot, however, is that of the Patterson-Gimlin film taken in Northern California in 1967. Bigfoot sightings still arise to this day, and a multitude of TV shows chasing video evidence of its existence are massively popular. I could go on and on about this creature, but my good friend Nox Archive covers it much better than I could, so if you'd like to know more about the creature, go watch his video on it. Next, let's discuss one that is also very well known through its depictions in media, the Yeti. The Yeti, also known as the Abominable Snowman, is another Bigfoot-like creature that reportedly lives in the Himalayan mountain range in Asia. Though this creature is very similar to Bigfoot, Tibetan lore has broken it down into 3 different varieties. The first is the Nyalmo, which is said to be up to 15 feet tall with black fur and a fierce personality. The second is the Chuti, which is said to be around 8 feet tall and tends to live 8,000 to 1,000 feet above sea level. The third and final variety is the Rangshim Bombo, which is said to be between 3 and 5 feet tall with reddish-brown fur. The first stories of the Yeti came from a man named H. Seeger, who was told by Tibetan Buddhist monks that it was a pre-Buddhist god. The Lepcha people worshipped the glacier being as the god of the hunt that was later adopted as a non-human animal that is considered a follower of Buddhism and helper of many religious figures. The term Abominable Snowman allegedly came from a mistranslation of Tibetan terms noted in a 1921 book penned by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Howard Bury about a British Mount Everest reconnaissance expedition. Lieutenant Colonel Howard Bury stated that Sherpa guides explained large footprints in the snow as being from a creature called Meadow Kangmi, which roughly translates to man-bear snowman. This was translated to Abominable Snowman by a journalist named Henry Newman, who took a little bit of creative license when sending the story to newspapers. Next is a short but interesting one, Bat Squatch. This creature is literally what it sounds like, a bat mixed with Sasquatch. This creature is said to have a dog-like muzzle, blue fur, sharp teeth, bird-like feet, yellow eyes, leathery bat wings with a wingspan of up to 50 feet and a standing height of 9 feet. It was initially seen near Mount St. Helens in the 1980s, but was also seen in Arizona, California, Ohio, and Washington. We now move on to one I've only heard in passing, the Yowie. No, not the anime genre. Get back up on the curb with everybody else. The Yowie is an Australian species of Bigfoot that is reputed to live in the outback with hairy, ape-like features that stands about 6 to 12 feet tall. This creature was first documented in the Australian Town and Country Journal in the 1850s as accounts of indigenous apes. Once again, Nox Archive has covered this, so I highly suggest you go check out his video. The last Bigfoot-esque cryptid we will discuss today is the Pennsylvanian White Bigfoot, and it's once again literally what the name states. It was first seen in Blakesley, Pennsylvania in 1970 and is described as follows. Its eyes were dark and far apart, its white hair covered the lower half of its face. There was pinkish skin around the eyes and forehead. It looked like its hair was a little longer on its head and hanging over its forehead like bangs. This creature became more popular due to a YouTube video allegedly taken of it, but other than that, there isn't a whole lot left to discuss. All the versions of Bigfoot can be boiled down to being one of three things: the misidentification of another animal species, a hoax, or some form of giant ape that is generally believed to be extinct. The next set of cryptids are monsters of the sea or a body of water. First, I want to speak about the monster from which I believe this category is derived, a creature that you've probably heard of if you're in any way religious or have played a hint of any Final Fantasy game, the Leviathan. The Leviathan is a sea serpent that was first referenced in the Hebrew Bible as the embodiment of chaos tasked with eating souls of the damned throughout all of eternity in the afterlife. Christian theologians describe it as being the demonic representation of sin and envy, while Ophites, a Christian Gnostic sect, depict the serpent in their ritual and esoteric diagrams as encapsulating the space of the material world. The word Leviathan now describes any sea monster or overwhelmingly powerful being. Next is arguably the most popular sea monster cryptid of all time, the Loch Ness monster. Also known as Nessie, this beast is derived from Scottish Gaelic mythology and is described as being a sea dragon with a long neck that resides in the River Ness in the Scottish Highlands. The first recorded sightings of Nessie came from Life of St. Columbia, which was written by Adamnan in 565 AD, where it is described as a water beast that mauled a man who had been swimming in the River Ness. Nessie entered the popular zeitgeist when a published sighting by a man named George Spicer was published in the Courier in August 1933. If you would like a more in-depth explanation of Nessie and its history, I would highly suggest you watch Count Dankula's video on it. We move on to probably the most recent cryptid of this category, the Alaskan ice monster. In October 2016, Alaska's Bureau of Land Management posted a video of what looked like an undulating icy shape moving through the waters of the Chena River. This video was so oddly captivating due to the mystique surrounding what was in it that it blew up internationally as the public desperately looked for answers. Turns out, all this hype was over an ice-covered rope caught on the pier. Yeah. The next sea monster is the Bear Lake monster out of Idaho and Utah. This monster is generally described as resembling a serpent with legs 18 inches long that has an undulating body of a light cream color. The first report of the monster came from a Desert News article by Joseph C. Rich in 1868, which would spread to Salt Lake City and eventually catch the attention of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. The most recent sighting would come from Bear Lake business owner Crane Hershey in June 2002. We got a couple of short ones, so let's bang those out very quickly. The first being Floridian marine reptiles. Floridian marine reptiles are creatures seen off the coast of Florida that are believed to have a crocodile head, 2 front fins, and a long trident-shaped tail. Skeptics explain this one away as being a hoax or just a manatee with an injured tail. Next, we have by far the most disgusting creature on this list with the funniest name ever, globsters. Globsters are literally described as giant blobs of unidentified organic matter. There's a lewd joke I could make here, but I'm not going to. We move right over to Canada with the Ogopogo, a lake monster that's believed to be residing in the Okanagan Lake in British Columbia. The Ogopogo is described as having a large body that is thicker than a telephone pole, measures in at up to 50 feet in length, has dark skin, and is smooth to the touch. Sightings date back to 1872, but it did not receive its name until 1912. We head over to Japan for a cryptid that kind of is and kind of isn't a sea monster, but its name translates to sea priest, the Umibozu. The Umibozu is a type of yokai, a malicious one at that is described as a giant black head popping up from the sea before it attacks unwitting boats and drags their occupants to the bottom of it. The final monster of this category is, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, the Mokele Omembe. Its name translates to one who stops the flows of rivers and is described as either a spirit or living quadrupedal herbivore with a long neck, smooth skin, a single tooth, and sometimes a horn. The first written depiction of this creature was in the 1909 autobiography of famous big game hunter Carl Hagenbeck called Beasts and Men. Hagenbeck claims in this book that 2 independent sources spoke of a half-elephant, half-dragon creature residing in Rhodesia, which is now called Zimbabwe. It was speculated heavily that Mokele Mbembe is a still-living brontosaurus hiding in the rainforests of Central Africa. There have been many attempts since then, the last being in 2018, to find this creature, but most have yet to find any concrete evidence of its existence. Bonus round. There are 2 cryptids that are basically the same thing, and they live in water, so we're gonna cover them very quickly to close out this particular category. The Kraken and the gigantic octopus. The Kraken is first mentioned in 13th century Icelandic folklore, specifically the Battle of Hafgufa and the Lyngbakr in the Orvar Odd saga. Hafgufa, translated to sea mist, was believed to live deep within the ocean, used its own vomit like chumming bait to gather prey fish, and was reputed to consume whole ships and massive whales in one gulp. This creature would later be known as the Kraken and is believed to be the largest creature in the ocean. In 2012, a giant squid was found off the coast of Norway, which could explain how the legend of the Kraken came to be. The next set of cryptids is going to be called D&D creatures, purely because they are so common I've fought them in one of my many tabletop forays over the years. Because they're so common, I'm going to speed run describing each and every one of these. Reptilians are creatures that are half human and half reptile, the most famous of which nowadays are the lizard people we see in many memes. Dragons are creatures of legend that usually are reptilian in nature with elemental powers and the ability to fly. The Hydra is another reptilian creature that can spawn multiple heads in place of one that has been cut off. Centaurs are half men, half horse creatures from Greek mythology known to be horny little bastards. Dwarves are humanoid creatures originally from Germanic mythology that are known for being short, good at crafting, and infatuated with gold. Hellhounds are mythological canines that are believed to be either a guardian or servant of hell, with the most famous depiction of this being Cerberus, Hades' guardian of the Greek underworld. Gargoyles are creatures made of stone that usually are placed among Gothic architecture to ward off evil spirits. They are usually chimeras, meaning they have the physical characteristics of multiple animals. Giants are the inverse of dwarves physically. They are massive humanoid beings originating from Greek mythology known to be violent and quote-unquote savage. I feel like even mentioning this is summoning a particular YouTuber. Gnomes are a subset of dwarfish creatures originating from European folklore that are also considered to be earth spirits. They're typically magical and usually physically deformed. Golem are creatures from Jewish folklore that are described as beings made from mud or clay that become magically animated. Griffin are creatures from Middle Eastern and Mediterranean mythology that have an eagle's head and a lion's body. Leprechauns are small creatures of Irish origin known to be solitary and created from the Fae, people from the fairy world. They are generally depicted as tiny, bearded men wearing all green that hoard gold. Trolls are Scandinavian, anthropomorphic creatures that live in the wilderness. I've done 2 movie reviews centered around these things, so I'ma just move on. Unicorns are legendary creatures of South Asian origin that are horses with a single horn on its head. Fun fact, the earliest depiction of a unicorn can be found on the soapstone stamp seals of the Indus Valley civilization that existed during the Bronze Age, which is between 2600 and 1900 BC. Vampires are undead creatures that drink the blood of living beings in order to sustain themselves, utilizing abnormally large canines or fangs. Examples of vampires can be found in Hebrew, Ancient Greek, Manipuri, and multiple other cultural stories throughout recorded human history. Mermaids, mermen, are creatures that have the upper body of a human and the lower body of a fish, which are most known for ocean-related deaths. These creatures are also very much related to the sirens of Greek mythology and have been popular as of late due to Disney in its classic animated movie, The Little Mermaid. The next cryptid is one I'm more than likely going to describe completely incorrectly, and I apologize in advance for that. The Jinn or Jinn. Jinn are spirits of Middle Eastern origin that are prevalent in both pre-Islamic and Islamic teachings that are described as shape-shifting spirits that are usually invisible. They live alongside human beings that are similarly judged upon entering the afterlife by Allah. Again, I apologize profusely for completely misunderstanding this mythological being, as I am not well versed in the culture, and feel free to correct me in the comment section below. below. The final creature I will discuss here are the homunculi, which originally are depicted as tiny human beings popularized during the 16th century alchemy craze. The description and depiction of these creatures changed to describe alchemically created beings like those depicted in the extremely popular Full Metal Alchemist animated series and manga. The second to last section I will call well-known cryptids because they are talked about so frequently either in mainstream or social media. Let's just get this first one out of the way because I've covered it so extensively on my channel over the last few years, Slenderman. To be brief, Slenderman is a magical SCD with no face that wears a suit and pops between dimensions. Moving on. El Chupacabra, or goat sucker, is a Latin American legendary creature that was initially reported in Puerto Rico in 1975. They have two completely different depictions associated with them: a reptilian creature with greenish colored skin and sharp spines, or a strange breed of hairless dog that looks extremely malnourished. The trademark for this creature is dead wildlife with odd holes on its body. Next, we have the Jersey Devil, a New Jersey cryptid described as a deer-like creature with leathery wings. If you'd like the more detailed description of this being, please check out Nox Archive's video. We move to Europe this time to talk about Santa Claus's evil cousin Krampus. Krampus is a pre-Christian alpine being depicted similarly to a demon or satyr with its cloven hooves, dark fur, and goat-like horns, who is known to punish naughty children during the Christmas season. The next creature is a taxidermy hoax of the 1930s, the jackalope. The myth spawned out of two hunters grafting deer antlers onto a jackrabbit carcass to sell in local hotels out of Douglas, Wyoming. Next is the thunderbird, a creature of Native American origin depicted as a massive bird of prey. They are believed to be associated with rain and are believed to summon lightning from their eyes and thunder from flapping their wings. We now have the Dover demon, an otherworldly humanoid with gray skin and glowing eyes that was seen in Dover, Massachusetts, April 21st and 22nd, 1977. Though many cryptozoologists believe this to be the progenitor of the gray man aliens we see in media today and the legitimate alien sightings, skeptics argue that this was probably just an animal like a moose or a calf that was seen in an odd location at an odd time of year. Another very well-known cryptid from American mythology is a particular bug-like humanoid creature, the Mothman. The Mothman was first introduced to the public zeitgeist through a report published in the Point Pleasant Register on November 16, 1966. This creature was described as a large white creature whose eyes glowed red, but is currently depicted as a bipedal beast covered in hair with massive wings. Once again, my good buddy Nox has covered him in great detail, so check out his video if you want more information. The Enfield monster, also known as the Enfield Horror, is an odd beast described as being 4 foot tall with slimy gray skin, pinkish red eyes, claws, and 3 legs. The first sighting of the cryptid took place when young Greg Garrett was repeatedly attacked by the beast while playing in his backyard on April 25, 1973. Once it was done attacking Garrett, the creature would be seen by his neighbor, Harry McDaniel, later that morning. Once seeing the beast, McDaniel opened fire upon it with a .22 caliber pistol, which caused it to flee. It would reappear multiple times a few weeks later to attack McDaniel again, along with a few other eyewitnesses before disappearing for good. It's believed the beast was either an alien, a demon, or a rabid animal. Speaking of aliens, our next cryptid is also out of the extraterrestrial variety, out of Braxton County, West Virginia, the Flatwoods Monster. This creature was first seen by Edward and Fred May along with their friend Tommy Heyer as it flew over a local farm at 7:15 p.m. on September 12, 1952. It was seen again on the same night by a multitude of other people, and the reports would eventually be published in a Fate magazine article written by Gray Barker. Barker would describe the creature as a quote-unquote 10-foot tall being with a round, blood-red face, eyes that emitted greenish-orange light, a dark black body, made hissing sounds, and moved in a gliding motion. Moving right along, our next cryptid is the Loveland Frog. This anthropomorphic frog hails from Loveland, Ohio, and is reported to be 4 foot tall. It became infamous in 1972 due to local police rumors, but they've been cited as far back as 1955. Oddly enough, some accounts state that these funny little guys are wizards and carry around wands. Our next cryptid is probably one of the most infamous and well-known, the Poplik Monster, better known as the Goatman. This urban legend hails from Louisville, Kentucky, and was created to explain a string of unfortunate events that took place at the railroad trestle bridge over the creek that is its namesake. Legend states that the half-goat, half-sheep monster either lures its victims to the bridge and kills them, or uses scare tactics to keep trespassers away from its territory. Down in Fresno and Yosemite Park, California, another bipedal creature that could be called a gray has appeared, the Fresno Nightcrawler. It's been described as extremely thin with no discernible arms and short, stilt-like legs. There isn't a whole lot about them, but apparently one man in Poland recorded a sighting. We have more ET shenanigans with probably the most ridiculous cryptid yet, air rods. Air rods are basically weird anomalies in photos and video recordings that allegedly started appearing March 19, 1994, while a UFO enthusiast named Jose Escamilla was doing some filming in Roswell, New Mexico. Skeptics believe these are nothing more than insects crossing the camera lens as the images are taken. And wouldn't you know it, more alien cryptid coverage with phantom cats, this time in the sense of an odd species of animals being found in places they don't belong rather than ETs visiting Earth. This one is a worldwide phenomena, and, go figure, Nox does a better job talking about this than I ever could, so I'm once again bumping his video. To Mongolia we go for a rather grotesque creature that is called the Olgoi Korkoi, or Mongolian deathworm. Apologies if I mispronounced that. This worm is described as being blood-like in color, 2 to 7 feet long, spits corrosive yellow saliva, and generates blasts of electricity. The aforementioned yellow saliva is used to kill its prey and digest it partially before it's consumed. The last creature in this category is the Beast of Bray Road, and I actually covered this one in one of my first collabs with Nox, so please check that out for more details. I will, however, say this is basically Wisconsin's version of the werewolf. Our final category is foreign cryptids that I couldn't really fit into the other categories. The first cryptid here is the giant Middle Eastern bird of prey, the roc. The roc originates from Indian folklore, specifically the battle between the Garuda and the Naga. These legendary birds were also described in the Arabian Nights story of Sinbad's second voyage. Next, we have the oswang, which isn't really a singular creature and more a Filipino term for different shape-shifting creatures in their folklore, like vampires, witches, and chimera. I'm not really sure how to sum that up any better, so we're gonna leave it at that. Off we go to southeastern Australia with the bunyip, a quadrupedal creature from Aboriginal mythology that makes its home in small bodies of water. This creature made its first appearance in the public zeitgeist with James Ives's 1812 article in the Sydney Gazette. He described the creature as a large black animal like a seal with a terrible voice which creates terror among the, people of color. The term used here could get me in trouble with our YouTube overlords, so I'm just gonna reinterpret that last word there, yeah. From the jungles of Java, located in Indonesia, comes the gigantic bat creature called the ahul. The ahul, also called the atoll, is named as such for the cry it allegedly emits and is pretty much a massive bat. This creature is believed to be a descendant or subspecies of the ropen from New Guinea. We return to Japan for the final creature on this level of the iceberg, the tsuchinoko. The tsuchinoko is a serpent-like creature most prevalently residing in western Japan that is described as 12 to 13 inches in length with abnormal girth in its midsection. This creature is well known for being a very deceptive trickster. So there you have it, we're officially done with level 1 of the Cryptid Iceberg. I hope you're excited to dig deeper into these odd creatures with me in future videos, and thank you for watching. Sweet nightmares. I wanted to take this time to thank my Patreons and channel members. Your support is so greatly appreciated and I can't thank you enough. If you'd like to become a Patreon, there is a link in the description below, and if you'd like to become a channel member, just go ahead and click that join button and join the Truth Sleuths and Horror Hounds. All channel members and Patreons receive 24-hour access to videos prior to their public release and exclusive updates on my progress. After a certain tier, you can request that I do a certain topic or movie review, or you can even request that I do a game live stream, whichever works for you. At the highest tier, you not only get to choose the topic in which I cover, you get to either co-host the stream or the video that I do that covers said topic, no matter if it's one or multiple. Of course, this is not obligatory. If you want to support the channel, I greatly appreciate it, and once again, thank you so much.